and and no one can for certain tell us when this recession is going to end. There are fears, a lot of fears, that this downturn could endure right up into next year and even beyond that. And so obviously the punishments, if it does endure into next year, will be harder than we are currently experiencing now. Recovery for a lot of businesses has been almost non-existent because consumer spending, which normally, especially for the UK, accounts for 70% of the economy, according to the Business Insider, I had to quote that, has almost crashed, as most public places like cinemas, restaurants, theaters have all shut down and have been shut down for the past couple of months for us in the UK since March. There's been layoffs, there's been furloughs, and in some cases, the total collapse of some small businesses. And talking about small businesses, in the UK, over 250,000 businesses have collapsed. Over 250,000 and counting, if the economy or if this recession that they're speculating that we are in continues up until next year and beyond. So many of us, obviously, I'm sure many of us know one person or other who was lost their job. And I just thought this is so timely for us to be talking money, because our money is going to have to find a way to work even harder for us. Our money is going to find a way to stretch. And who better to share it with us than my friend, classmate, sister of over 20 years. She is a financial professional and accountant. So she's a CPA fellow. I was very impressed to hear that, my darling. She's a CPA fellow. She's based in Edmonton, in Alberta. Or is it Edmonton? She's based in Edmonton, in Alberta. And she's here, yes, today with us to talk money. I'm so, so happy to introduce you guys to Mrs. Jewel Mbeleke Choima. Hello.
Oh, hi, Goretti.
Welcome to the show, Judith.
Thank you for having me. Thank you.
I am so glad you could join. There are so many people who are here. Swazans have represented in the number. I'm so, so, so happy. I'm so, so. Thank you, guys. Annabelle is here. That's Annabelle. That's what.
Yeah, I can see that. Hi, guys, and thanks for tuning in.
Thank you, guys, so much. Hi, Tessie. Hi, Gaby. Hi, Omar. Hi, Nicolene. Thank you guys so much. So, Judy, let's just crack on with it. We're talking money, and I'm sure a lot of us want to hear what you have to say about that. Firstly, this recession, what's your take on the recession?
Well, you know what? There have been warnings about the recession even prior to the COVID-19 pandemic, with everything that was going on in the States and their president with the protectionism and all that, saying America first. So there has been a lot of fears before this pandemic. So the pandemic kind of just catapulted us into recession, and I think we're already there. And my take on this is I'm trying to be as cautious as possible. There's no guarantee that we've seen the worst of it yet, because there are still looming fears that there might be a resurgence of the pandemic, maybe sometime in the fall or the winter. And if that happens again, it's going to be a double blow. And we're seeing a lot of governments across the world already nearing a lot of financial strain, having to bail out their citizens.
Yes.
So at this time, it's a very precarious time financially. And when it comes to personal finances, I might just want to say that there's no better time than to emphasize the importance of financial literacy at this point in time. So my take on this is stick to your budget if you have one. And if you've never thought about having a budget, start looking into that. Look at your expenses. Look at what you're spending your money on. For those who still have jobs, who are still lucky to have jobs,
yes,
watch your every dime. Top up on your emergency fund. If you do have an emergency fund, hold on to that. For those who do not have jobs, and for those who are in the West and are lucky to be able to depend on government subsistence, I know it's hard, it's tough. Hang on to every dime that you have. For those in Cameroon, it's going to impact us as well in Africa, because
definitely,
with the recession and the economy contracting in the West, exports from Africa is also going to go down. Like, if we don't have jobs in the West and the purchasing power is down,
Yeah.
We can't exactly spend money to buy stuff. So it's going to impact us as well on the end of exports and raw materials or whatever we're selling out of the country.
Wow.
Yeah. So I'm just, yeah.
It looks very bleak. The outlook is very bleak.
Yeah, not to scare anyone. I mean, like, there's a saying that goes, better to be like, hope for the best, but prepare for the worst.
Prepare for the worst.
You don't want to be on the wrong side of things when things happen. So just hang on. And for those who can afford it, like who have the extra cash, this is also a time to, you can find a good deal, for example, in real estate, because we're going to see prices of real estate on houses, land, stock market. You guys saw what happened to the stock market. If you have the money, get into it now, because this is a good time to buy. Yeah.
Before we get into that stock market end of the conversation, so I mean, you've told us a lot, and like you said, I agree with you. There is no immediate end in sight when it comes to this COVID-19 pandemic, and so governments, economists are being very cautious with their spending. But the good thing is, with people like us in the UK, or a lot of us in the West, there's a lot of government subsidies on small businesses and just trying to help keep them afloat. What would you say to the woman in Cameroon, or the people in Cameroon now whom a lot of them have to literally day to day for their living? Yeah.
Yeah, it's very sad. Like when I think about Africa and I compare it to what we have here, we are blessed. Like we are privileged to be able to have a government we can lean back or lean back. Africa, we know the government.
Yeah.
So at this time, again, I can only caution that if you do have money, hang on to it. So this is not the time to make unnecessary expenditures, buying stuff that you don't need, saving money as much as possible. No one knows when this is going to end. We can only hope for the best.
No one does.
Yeah.
And so I liked when you said we talked about financial literacy.
Yeah.
And you said, so what would you say is the African, or I'm even going to narrow it down more, what is the Cameroonian woman's attitude to money?
Well, generally, just to talk about financial literacy, unfortunately, this is one of the things that our educational curriculum back home to teach us how to handle your money, how to make an extra dollar go for. And we only ever heard about money from our parents. Yeah. And our poor parents as well were limited in the knowledge that they had when it came to money. So they could only teach us what they knew, which wasn't a lot. So when it comes to money, the tendency, especially for us African or Cameroonian women specifically, we've been always conservative with money. We've always watched our dime. Growing up with our mothers, we saw it. We saw what they had to do. So every dime counted, every franc counted. So that has generally been our attitude, as well as we've always been very risk adverse. Like when it came to investments, we're on the extreme side of conservatism. Risk,
So with obviously having lived in Canada for the past how many years, how do you think that our attitudes differ to the people, the women in the West, or people generally in the West?
So people generally in the West, or women in the West, are just as conservative as us. Right. The difference is they have understood they are more risk tolerant than we are. So they're able to take risks, some moderate level of risk, as opposed to us where we don't even want to take any risk. So they've grown in a culture where they have a risk appetite better than us, and they are able to take that risk and invest their money to make more money.
Wow. So I'm going to ask our audience, and I'm going to welcome those who are just joining us now, because I see the numbers are picking up. Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us this Wednesday evening. We are on the Woman Experience with Goretti, and our beautiful guest is Judith Mbeleku Choima, who is joining us from Alberta. Edmonton. You guys know why I'm laughing, because I keep wanting to say Alberta, Calgary. You can tell.
Oh, that's okay.
I'm about to practice this. So she's joining us from Edmonton, Alberta. And so thank you guys for joining. Thank you very much. We're talking money, but I mean, obviously, we're delving into it quite gently, because we have to acknowledge the need. We have to acknowledge the need for us to be conscious of our money now, because I mean, it's been repeated. I don't even have to say we are all in a pandemic. We know that we are slowly, economies are opening slowly, but a lot of us during this time have lost our jobs, we've lost our investments, we've lost our businesses. And even for the lucky few who still have those, with the a pandemic with no obvious end in sight, we have to be cautious. We have to be really cautious about how we spend. And Judith is just there to give us wonderful advice on what to do with our money and how to make this money hopefully work for us. So thank you guys very much for joining. Oh, I see so many new people. Thank you guys so much for joining. I think money is something that everybody wants to talk about. Okay, then, since everyone, I know, since the numbers are just picking up, and I know that people just want to get down to the meat, before we actually get down to the tips and all of that, I just really wanted us to talk about our attitude towards money. Because if we don't get our attitude right, we can learn all there is to learn about it. We're still going to lose that money. We're still going to make mistakes. We're still going to find ourselves wanting if there is another pandemic in the future. So I really wanted us to really touch on that. And I'm going to throw this first question to our guest. Our guest is our third audience here. And we're, as usual, on the Woman Experience, we're here to share and learn through our shared experiences. What do you find, Tessie, Oma, Sha, Giselle, Millicent, those who are watching us, do you find that your attitude towards money has improved in your time in the West? Or do you find that you still kind of treat money like your parents did? Has being abroad changed your attitude towards money? And if you have, while Judith is saying it, I would really, really, really like you to share your own tips on some of the things that you did to improve your attitude so that it makes you financially more free, I guess. So Judy, I'm coming back to you. What do you think influenced our attitude towards that money? The Cameroonian woman's attitude towards money. What do you think is one of the greatest influences? I would say culture. What would you say?
Yeah, I mean, like, culture stands out at the top of the list just because, we come from a society where men are considered to be the leaders in everything. Talk less about financing. For those who are married, like, we saw that growing up. Like, it was uncommon to see your mother lead the charge when it came to finances and financial investment.
Mm-hmm.
So even if a woman had that purchasing power or that job or had that money, she had to seek approval from her husband to invest.
Yeah.
And just as an example, I remember growing up, my father wasn't really like a kind of investment person. Maybe because he came from a different background. And my mother was a Bambuleke. I knew you guys know what the Bambuleke is when it comes to investment. She was like pro-investment. And my father was like, no, sometimes I don't really want to go. So my mother was like, I'm not going to wait for you to come around. I'm just going to go ahead and do these things. And I remember one time she went behind my father's back and she purchased a piece of land. It was an uproar in the family. It was like, it was taboo. How could you, as a woman, invest without the permission of your husband? So those cultural and societal taboos have kind of put women second place when it came to developing an attitude towards money. You have to wait for a lead from a man. And I also think second on the list, one of the issues that we face as women growing up in Cameroon was the fact that most women sometimes were just stay-home moms.
Yes.
Who didn't have full-time jobs, who didn't have the resources, and depended on their husband for money and for everything. Yeah. And just because they had limited financial resources, they just, even if they wanted to, they just couldn't. So the resources were limited, so you had to watch every dollar. A lot of women relied on their monthly stipend from their husbands to set aside a little amount to feed their kids or to do something of their own. So not only are the resources limited, but you have a husband and you can't like take certain initiatives without his approval. Yeah. So it ended up making our women and our mothers become so conservative about their money and about everything that they spend their money on. And also because of apart from the limited resources, we also have this issue of a lack of a safety net in Cameroon. So even if you have the money and you wanted to invest it and you lost that money, there's no social safety net to catch you. Like in the West, how the people that lost their jobs, how the government picked them up. Like, you didn't get exactly what you're making. Maybe you were making more than what the government, but at least there's something to fall back on.
Yeah.
So it makes us in the West, like women in the West are more risk tolerant, knowing that if the worst came to the worst, I'm not going to end up on the street. Maybe at least I'm going to get a handout from the government. So that explains why there will be less, like, less conservative than us when it came especially to investments. And one other point I would like to raise with respect to that was the lack of financial literacy. We didn't have any financial literacy education growing up. You relied on your instinct. You relied on what you had. You relied on what you saw your parents do. So due to that gap in financial literacy, a lot of women didn't know what to do with their money, even when they had it. They didn't know the basics of a budget. What's a budget? How do I know where to put my money? What do I know? When do I know when to invest my money? How do I even know? Whoever told you that if you bought a piece of land today for $1,000, it was going to appreciate in value, Stuff like that, we didn't have that information. So, and even if you did, the investment options in Cameroon or Africa were really limited. Like, what were you going to invest in? The options weren't really there. So, yeah.
And I agree with you. And you saying that brings me back to these myths that people have about women. They always say that there's a lot of myths and actually like documented that women can't handle money. Women are very frivolous when it comes to money. Women don't know how to save. All those things. What do you think? Do you?
Oh no. On the contrary, women are the best. Make the best financial.
I think so too.
Yeah. So. Unfortunately, in this time and age, Fortune 500 companies, they're getting there with their quotas with hiring female CEOs, but it has been proven that women are more conservative and make decisions thinking about the future and not just about that. And they will make better decisions and manage money better than them.
Okay. So, Judith, I want you to give me actual steps on how a woman can change her attitude towards money for the better. Actual steps like point 1, point 2.
Okay, first step, cultural taboos and cultural societal norms. Get rid of those. Let's try to change the mentality that you need a man to take the lead. You can take the lead when it comes to money. So that's why these days you advise, if you're going to get married to someone, make sure you guys are on the same page when it comes to setting goals and objectives. There's no point getting married to a man who doesn't share the same financial, aspirations and objectives, and then you go get stuck in a marriage and you're not growing just because you have to fall in line with the expectations of your spouse. But in any case, sometimes as a woman, you might get married to a man who might be risk averse or who might not be a money person, but you can talk them into becoming that by showing them the value of making certain financial decisions. And I can assure you that when you start to do that, you start to earn respect from your spouse. Secondly, we should try, so getting rid of that myth or those cultural societal norms is one. And the second one of the second things I think might help us will be being more financially literate. Unfortunately, we didn't get that in our curriculum growing up, but there's a lot of resources online. There are lots of books you can read to educate yourself. And an example of those books, I will recommend reading Susan Allman's book, Women and Money. If any of you have heard about Susan Allman, she's a renowned best-selling author and financial advisor in the States. And you can also read the book Total Money Makeover by Dave Ramsey. Dave Ramsey actually is a financial advisor as well. He's on Facebook if you guys want to follow him. He gives a lot of great advice about how to manage money. And also one other thing I do often is watch financial news or financial related news. I'm not sure about the other countries, but in Canada, there's a channel called BNN Bloomberg. That's where you get all your information about the stock markets, trends, prices of crude oil, gold, and all that. So when you start to do that, you read and you start to educate yourself, then you will see your mentality and your attitude towards money starts to change.
Okay, so this is what this information you've given, and these steps are for those of us in the West. What about the average woman in Africa, in particular Cameroon, who is the Bayam Selam? And for the non-Cameroonians, a Bayam Selam is just a trader.
Yeah. So in Cameroon, for a regular buyer seller who cannot read those books, who can't have access to this book, I think it's more about emancipation and understanding that as a woman, there's no limitations to what you can do when it comes to financing. And well, if you can get on the internet, I know the internet is also available in Cameroon. If you can't order a book on Amazon, you can go on the internet, you can do some research, you can read some literature. You can go into a bank. I think banks also offer a lot of great advice in Cameroon. And a lot of the buy and sell, they do banking with a little corporate. Just go there. I know they might not be able to give you the full information that you might be looking for, but it's a start.
Yeah, it's a good start. And for our guests again, I'm going to throw it to you. Who do you think? What advice would you give, especially for those of you who are into finance? What advice would you give a Bayam Selam or a Mami in this time in Cameroon, in this time of the COVID-19, where the financial, well, a lot of them are struggling due to not being able to sell their wares or go into the market, because obviously we all know the COVID-19 is very infections person to person. So what's this word I'm trying to look for? Is what's it? Okay, I can't remember. But I'm trying to say social distance. You have to you have to apply social distances. Okay, I gotta get my mind right. For some reason, I feel like I'm rambling. Why am I rambling? But anyway, so what advice would you give the Mami who is faced with COVID-19 pandemic and Cameroon? I know Cameroon has lifted off its ban, but then just for her to be safe and she cannot go to the market every second or every day like she normally does, what would you advise her in the comments? What would you advise her to do? What would you advise her to do to be able, because a lot of them, the question I'm asking is because I know that when our mothers have done one trade for 20, 30 odd years, it's very difficult for them to be able to just switch and try something new. But then the thing is that we have to train even though they're older and they've done this for many years, we need to train them to be adaptable, is what I'm trying to get at. They need to be able to adapt and change their business. So I'm asking along those lines, is that something you advise the Mami? And if you are, you're very conversant or savvy in that, can you please share if you have actually helped some of the Mamis? Because a lot of us are focusing on us in the West. We forget that the people back home are really suffering from this and they don't know where to get that help. So I'm just hoping that somebody in the comments knows has some kind of information so that we can share with them so that it can help them as well. So we'll go, Judy. Thank you for that. So you've given us the steps for us. What are you as a woman doing during this time to keep the money in your home?
During this time, like I talked about budgeting, I use a simple budgeting tool, revenue expenses. So I know when I'm going to get paid. I'm working from home since the pandemic hit, and luckily I still have a job and I have fixed pay periods. I know exactly when I'm going to get paid. So I don't wait for my pay to hit my bank account before I decide what I'm going to spend it on. So 2 weeks ahead of time, I know exactly how much I'm going to get paid and I know exactly what I'm going to spend that money on. So it's all mapped out. I do the calculations and I am able to see what I have left over. And at this time, I focus on only spending money on needs. So the biggest challenge here sometimes is distinguishing between a need and a want. A need is something you can't live without. You need food. You have to go and buy food.
You don't need a good bill.
You're going to have to pay your utility bills. You're going to have to put gas in your car. Those are needs. Like you have to budget for your needs. So once I budget for my needs, like the things I can't compromise, I look at my bottom line. How much money do I have left? If I do have some money left, that's when I put it aside. I put it in a savings account. And want is something that you don't exactly need at this time. For example, do I need a new dress? No. I've been working from home for 4 months. Where am I going at this time? Nothing. All parties have been canceled. Do I need a new pair of shoes I've been planning to get? No. That's a want. So I cut out all that unnecessary expenditure and I stick to the basics. Why? Because I might have a job today, but there's no telling what's going to happen in the next 2 months. No one knows what's going to happen. So I am trying to maximize on saving as much as possible.
Mm-hmm.
So that's how I'm trying to get through the pandemic.
So you're talking about savings. I'm thinking, what's your take on Jangis?
Well, okay, for our non-Cameroonian audience, if there are any, Njagi is simply a situation where we come together as a group and we decide to pool our funds on a monthly basis, and then each individual, we have a queue, each individual has a turn on benefiting from these pooled funds. Njagi is a very powerful tool. Believe me, that has been the driving force behind the Bamileke's prosperity. Why? Because it defeats the concept of a bank. It is interest-free money, especially for those who are at the head of the queue. Take, for example, I used to belong to a group like that. We had 12 members, and every month we had to pool $1,000 each. That is $12,000 each month. So if you were first in the queue on January 1st, you got $12,000 interest-free that you had to pay back over 12 or 11 months. Think about it. If you walk into a bank and ask them to give you $12,000, how much are they going to charge you on that? And even if they do, first of all, they're going to ask you for credit history. They're going to check you. They're going to ask you for employment. They're going to ask you a lot of things. And if you agree, they're going to charge you interest, the minimum interest rate to the on loans or cash loans like that. You're not going to pay anything less than 5%. That is if you have very good credit. So the Njagi defeats that purpose. And sometimes I decry the fact that we as Africans haven't been able to take that concept further, because if we did that, the banks will be out of business. So the Njagi, and for those that are last in the queue, is also a very effective way for people that do not have the discipline. Because we've all encountered this issue where you put money aside for a certain project, and then something happens and you go in and you use that money, and then you can't do the project. So it's a great tool for people that do not have that discipline to say, regardless of what happens, I'm not touching the money. You put your money aside, you discipline you, but take note, you should have a plan for that money before you get it. If you don't have a plan, you get that money, you're going to squander it and you're going to regret it. So if you're going to be the 12th person in the queue, but before the 12th month comes around, you better have a plan. So that's how I see the Njagi, but it's a very powerful and effective tool.
And it's worth joining.
It's definitely worth it. It's a means of saving your money or getting interest-free money, but then you have to take it a step further. So there's a difference between savings and actually investing. Saving your money, putting it in a bank account doesn't really earn you a lot of money. The banks are going to take it at a very minimum. They're going to pay about 2% interest, and they're going to loan that money out and make more money on you. So the Njagi is good as far as it goes in terms of savings, but you need to take it a step further. You need to find something to invest it in. So that's how you make your money grow.
And it reminds me of this social cultural organization we have here in the UK called RENCAM. And for those who don't know, RENCAM is, if you can actually visit their website, I'm going to put it down in the resources, rencam.co.uk. I'm typing it now, rencam.co.uk. If you can take a minute after this conversation, just visit their website. They are a social and cultural organization in the UK, and what they do is they are a community, they are cooperative. A credit union. They're called RENCAM Credit Union. They are a community financial cooperative where members pool their savings together with the Njagi, kind of like the Njagi scheme. They pool their savings together and they lend to one another. And then if there is any, it's operated for the purpose of promoting savings or providing credit, competitive rates, and providing other financial services to members. It's a not-for-profit organization. So any surplus that the members make, it's unlike the typical high street bank which aims to maximize profit. What RENCAM does is that money goes back to the shareholders. So I mean, I really like what they do, and I really recommend it if you can check them out. So Judith, you have recommended Njagi. Njagi is a good way of us trying to save for the future, for rainy days. Our parents have done it. For the Ghanaians and the Nigerians is Susu. That's in Njagi in Cameroon. And a lot of us have benefited from it, and I think what Judith is trying to do here is reiterate the importance of belonging to a Njagi group, because like she said, it's financial, it's interest-free.
It's interest-free money, so you're not paying interest on it, you're saving yourself the cost of it.
Certainly. So I really like that. So To me, that's a second step, because the first thing that you mentioned that I've learned about during this time is financial literacy, and then now you're talking about the importance of Njangi. So what's the next thing that you would think we should invest in during this time, and this time to make our money work for us?
All right. So in my opinion, like it doesn't have to apply the same. People might have their own opinions when it comes to investment, but to me, the proven and tested, consistent way of building wealth is real estate. There's this, I think you might remember the author, Mark Twain, the guy who wrote Tom Sawyer. He said one thing, it's a quote. I don't know if you ever heard that. He said, if you're ever going to buy or invest in something, buy land. No one is making it. No one is producing land, meaning land is limited, and we are always going to need land.
Yeah.
Believe me, land and houses or real estate is one thing that consistently appreciates. There's going to be fluctuations in the market. We have the housing crisis. We saw the housing market go down, but it's back up. Long-term wealth building, a lot of billionaires in the world, the wealthiest men in the world, built their wealth on real estate. And it's all based on the perception that it appreciates over time.
Yeah.
It just depends on how long you hold it. You hold real estate for 10 years, 15 years, its value always goes up.
Yeah.
Now, in the West, if you can put your money in a house, you can get a mortgage. If you can qualify for a mortgage, please do. Get into a mortgage that you can afford, that you can make monthly payments on, and hold it for as long as possible. If, again, you're one of the lucky few who can own more than one house, so after you're a resident, if you can purchase another house to rent it out. Look at that.
This is the right time for everything. I mean, we are no mortgage brokers, and but what do you guys think? Is this the right time to invest in?
Yes, I'll tell you why.
Why?
At this time, there's a lot of uncertainty in the market, in the economy, and if we go into a recession, house prices are going to go down. Why? Housing prices are usually tied to jobs. When there are no jobs, no one wants to buy a house. So the market is kind of slow then. So the pricing is down. That is when you buy. So when you buy low and you can negotiate a good deal, say you took out a $200,000 mortgage on a house and you have to pay $1,300 a month for a 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom house. You easily rent that house for $1,500 or $1,600. So you are actually putting someone in there who is helping to pay down the loan you got from the bank, and you're making money off them as well, because whatever you're getting from them, you're paying off your mortgage or your loan, and then you have a cash flow back into your pocket.
As long as you're renting, you're paying someone's mortgage.
You're paying someone's mortgage. So why rent when you can own?
If you can, though, if you can.
That's what I'm saying. Why rent if you can? If you can own, if you can do it. And not only are you making money like that, the house is appreciating in value. 10 years down the road, that house will no longer be $200,000. The house is going to go up. So to me, that's the proven and consistent long-term way of building wealth. I mean, like, there are other ways. And also, investing in the stock market is also a great way to make money. But when it comes to investment in the stock market, you better know what you're doing. If you don't know, if you can educate yourself, there's lots of material online for you to read to understand how the stock market works. So basically, it's just about people building companies. Maybe they don't have money to invest in these companies, so they sell out shares, which are like little blocks of investments in this company. Buy into this company, you get to take a share of the profit, or if the stock price rises or your share price rises, you make money off of that. So that's also a great way to do it. But if you don't know, because to be completely honest, I'm not an expert on the stock market. I do understand how it works. But if you don't have the time to sit down and actually educate yourself and understand, don't go losing your money. Otherwise, go to a bank, call a financial advisor, go to your bank. They'll get you a financial advisor to help you.
What about Bitcoins and them?
Bitcoins as well. I mean, and the stock market depends on your risk tolerance. Exactly. I went into Bitcoin because I put in a bit of money. I made some money. If you're sure that you're ready to lose, it depends on how much. How comfortable are you? How much money do you think you're going to lose? You can lose and not worry about. Set your risk tolerance limit. Maybe $500. If I lost $500, it's not going to be the end of the world. That's how the guys who do the stock markets, that's how they operate. You can go to a very risky market, like a risky portfolio, put in 500 and say, I don't care. If I lose the money, it doesn't matter. It's just 500. So it varies from person to person. But put your money somewhere. Saving your money, putting your money in a savings account doesn't get you far.
Okay.
That,
that's one take home from here. Putting money in your savings account and watching it climb doesn't really do much for you.
It doesn't really climb a lot. How much are they offering you interest? 3%. How much do you need to put to actually make money? And when they take that money from you, that's what the loan out to the mortgage people, like if I'm going to buy a house, they'll give me your money.
Yeah.
And they'll make 3 times the money that you are making from them. So it's just, to me, you should only save enough to cover you in times of emergency. Just have an emergency fund. The rest of your money, put it somewhere so it grows.
So it works for you.
It works for you.
Yeah. So what about those who have spent the past few years building homes in Cameroon?
Good question. I'm also in that boat,
Yeah, I know. Mm-hmm.
At the time, it seemed like a very good investment, especially in the north and southwest region. In hindsight, when I think about it today, that was a mistake. Wow. Well, when I compare both countries now and both environments, my money would have been better spent here. Why? The risk nature of Cameroon is very high risk.
Mm-hmm.
Legislation is not very clear.
Mm-hmm.
Institutions are not working.
Mm-hmm.
How long does it take you to get a land title in Cameroon? Do you even get it? How much money do you have to spend to get a land title?
Mm-hmm.
Now, if I had $10,000, people who invested in Cameroon and built homes didn't spend anything less than $20,000, right? With $20,000, if I had put $20,000 as a down payment on a $400,000 home here in Canada, 5 years ago, I would be looking at least equity of $50,000. So I would have made at least $50,000 on that. So, well, I'm not trying to discourage anyone who wants to invest in Cameroon, but you might want to weigh both options. And as an investor, I have a rule of thumb: if I'm not making money, I'm out. I should be able to make money. Now we invested in Cameroon, you built that house, it's sitting there with all the instability. You're not even sure you're going to recoup your investment. Yeah, so it's one of those things that you learn the hard way. But then it's not always the end. You can always recoup and you can always keep moving. Yeah. Come back and make better decisions. And the key to that is diversification as well. Don't put all your eggs in one basket. If you're going to invest in Cameroon, it's a good thing, but don't do all your investments in Cameroon. Do something elsewhere. So if the Cameroon market is tanking, it's not possible that right now we have investments tied up, then you can fall back. So it's all, to me, the way I see it, it's options. What options do you have? Like when things are bad, do I have an investment that can pick me up? And if it's not working here, can I have another portfolio somewhere that can, yeah.
So do you have any resources where, for people who have heard you talk about the stock market, do you have any resources that you can share with them?
Well, not at this time. I generally read on most of the resources I base my information on BNN Bloomberg, this TV channel I'm talking about, because it's a real-time live every day. But if you want to read generally on the stock market, on how it works, there's lots of literature online. Unfortunately, I didn't do any research on that. I could have recommended.
Yeah, that's okay. But you can give me whatever, and on the Goretti Experience page,
I can always come back and share.
Yeah, we have a resources section. So whenever the guests give us resources, we're just going to put it. There is a post. So if you click on that post in the comment section, I'm just going to populate it with all the resources that I get from the guest and from anyone else. So just make sure to check in that on the Goretti Experience page, the page via which you're watching the Woman Experience right now.
Yeah.
Judy, we've talked about long-term investments and how to make our money work for us in the future, especially given that the future is so uncertain financially and with the COVID-19 pandemic. Now let's break it down to day-to-day living, or week-to-week living, or month-to-month living. Let's revisit that. What are your tips on that? How can I every single day make a decision that's going to save me money in the long run?
Okay, so a lot of the stuff I'm going to talk about might greatly impact us. Like it might just apply to us in the West.
Okay, that's fine. Yeah.
We all came to the diaspora without a lot of knowledge about how the financial markets work. And then you get here, boom, you get a credit card. You don't know what it is. You don't know the implication.
Yeah.
It feels like some free money that's been given, or you're told, oh yeah, just pay it. Even if you don't have the money, you're going to pay. No one was looking at the interest rates. Those interest rates are killer interest rates. You're mortgaging your life.
Yeah.
I've seen credit cards that go to 30% interest. These guys are sucking the life out of you. They're killing your financial future. So it took me a hard way. Like I learned the hard way. And when I did learn, one of the tips I got from that, stay away from debt. Some debt, especially consumer debt. Consumer debt is usually the debt related to credit cards, maybe car loans, and so on. But credit cards are the worst time. Because most often than not, we spend that money on non-value adding things, clothes, shoes, bags, flashy stuff. Well, I mean, like, I'm not trying to be judgmental. I did that. You came abroad, you saw an opportunity to splurge, you want to treat yourself, right? So you go ahead, oh, that bag, I always wanted this designer bag, let me get that. If you go back and see how much interest you pay on this stuff, and that's one of the things that is weighing us down, debt. So the first thing that I gathered when I started reading, get out of debt. There's no solution, there's no shortcuts. Pay it off, build up your credit. Secondly, live within your means.
Yeah.
If you're making $1,000, live within. Pay yourself first. What does that mean? Set aside something every month before you do whatever you have to do. Once your basics are met, have a budget for everything, for your food, your utilities. Have a budget. Watch what you're spending. Watch where your money is going. And make sure you have something you can set aside every month.
Every month.
Yeah. And one other way, I always start the year by setting goals. Every year I have a goal. Even if it just means doing some home improvement projects. Like, okay, this year I had a project to like do some landscaping and plant trees in my backyard, because when you do plant trees, it increases the value of your property.
Yeah.
Something. Don't let a year go by without you achieving one thing. Like, do something. And when you do set up an objective or a goal, if you're not sure about how to meet that financially, have a budget. Set aside maybe $50, £50 for that project. That's going to come in 12 months. You might think it's very small, but £50 a month adds up really quick. And every year when you have a project or a goal and you achieve it, that's how you start to see yourself getting better at it. Third thing, of course, sorry, let me just check my note here. For those of us, I know we have a lot of us, most of us take care of families back home. And the pressure sometimes are overwhelming, because the family back home sometimes has some expectation of us living abroad. You know what I'm talking about? A lot of people back home think that we make a lot of money, but sometimes expectation doesn't really fit in with what the reality is. And it's hard for us to actually tell them, you know what? I can't afford what you're asking me. We can all relate to that. They'll insult you. They'll say, "Now who's broke? Who's all like this?" These same people that are pushing you to go broke, do something for them, will laugh at you when you indeed are broke. So help family, but do it within your means and be realistic. You don't want to spend 30 years abroad, 40 years abroad, just to find yourself in the same soup. Do something for yourself.
Yeah.
And one other tip as well is investing in life insurance. I know we've had a lot of cases, people dying, leaving families. This family struggle, and our focus has always been on raising money through GoFundMe to send the cops back.
Yeah.
It's great to be able to repatriate the cops, but it doesn't end there. You've left a wife, or maybe you left a husband, you've left kids. And believe me, white people have built generational wealth only through life insurance. If you take out you like in Canada today, $500,000, 500,000 insurance policy, you're paying only $40 a month with no pre-existing conditions. It's not only what you happen to you, not only will your cause be repatriated, your kids can go on. You can put this money in trust. When your kids are ready to go to college, they don't have to go taking loans. We all know what the burden of student loans are.
Yes.
Kids are going to have a step ahead in starting life.
Yeah.
So I always feel like that's the best thing I can do for them. if they don't have to struggle and take money from the government to go to school and then graduate and then still have to pay the government back.
Mm-hmm.
So I invest in life insurance policies. I make sure I only spend below what I make.
Mm-hmm.
Distinguish between a need and a want. You know, it's great to, in no way am I condemning people. Again, this is not something that's applicable to everyone. No,
it's not.
What's the point of investing $2,000 in a Louis Vuitton bag? When with $2,000 I can pick up a piece of land in Cameroon that's going to appreciate in 5 years. You know, it's going to spread. Treat yourself, but don't treat yourself at the expense of your financial future, because the financial decisions you make today are going to impact you 10 to 15 years down the line.
That's very true.
And sometimes we feel retirement is far. Retirement is over.
It's not. It's around the corner.
It's around the corner.
I want to read people's the comments. I'm sorry,
Yeah.
I've kind of neglected the comments, so let me read people's comments. Shanti says, divide your take-home income into 3 parts. So these are tips. We're talking about the tips now. Divide your income into 3 parts. Save a third monthly. You need discipline for this, and leave with the 2/3 left. And Corinne, hi Corinne, that's my childhood friend. She says, save, Dr. Corinne before. Save, then invest it. I don't understand people who spend all their salary on or income without saving. Live on 50% of your salary and you're on your first step to financial freedom. So Shanti is saying, divide into 3 parts. Doctor is saying 50-50. I think the message there is save something.
Yeah, save. It's save and find ways, like she said, save and invest.
Invest. We must stop trying to keep up with the Joneses for Cameroon. Always trying to prove a point is not the way to go.
Like someone always said, there's no point going broke trying to look rich. I'm like, you only have to answer to yourself when you get back home and you're in your bed. You know?
Yeah, it's true. Wow, sorry. I've missed so many comments, but bear with me. After the show, you can go back and read the comments. Brigitte says real estate is the best. I think a lot of people are agreeing on real estate.
Yeah, real estate is really the way to
learn.
And also one thing, I know, pay cash. If it's possible, if you get out of debt, cancel credit cards. Cash is king. Cash, when you pay cash, you're not paying fees. Credit cards, not only are they charging you interest, you're paying credit card fees, and it all adds up at some point. Pay cash, except for COVID-19 that has caused cash to be like, no so accepted, but it's just a matter of time. We're gonna get back there. Cash is always key.
Okay. Millicent says, I took a journey last year to gain knowledge on how to invest in the financial markets. And I can say overall experience is very rewarding. Being able to turn pounds to hundreds and to thousands, I would recommend this to anyone who wants to get financial knowledge. So thank you for that. Follow Millicent and ask her more questions if you're thinking of investing in the stock market. I saw something from somebody, one more official Universalis Investoped. It's a good 101 source with terminology and basics. So if you're thinking of going into the stock market and investing, Investopedia is a good 101 source with terminology. So it's a good one for another book for dummies, right?
I think it's like a branch of Wiki, but more about investment.
Okay.
So, and also one thing I was going to mention was about car loans. If you're going to buy a car, make sure you're investing in a brand that can retain a lot of its residual value. For example, Toyota. Toyota is one of those brands that 10 years down the road, all cars do depreciate, but Toyota is able to retain much more of its value than the average car. So invest in a car that you can turn around and sell if it ever became needed. Like a Toyota is one of those cars here. If you put a Toyota on the market in the morning, you're selling it in the evening because everyone wants it. It's low cost, low maintenance. I do understand when we all came to Bush for the first time, oh, I want a Mercedes, I want to drive a Lexus. We want to live that dream. But unfortunately, we didn't realize that to live that dream, you have to work for it. You can't spend money you don't have. So you buy a Mercedes is expensive. And it's an expensive car on its own. Yeah. And it's not a car you can easily sell because you know what I'm talking about. So when it comes to cars as well, that's usually one of my advice. Go for a car. Honda is also a good one that retains a lot of its value. Yeah. And living within your budget doesn't mean that you have to be frugal or you have to live. People kind of equate that to like, oh, I know Kima said one life to live. Yeah, but believe me, you can live a very good life within your budget if only you plan and you do good planning.
If Muna says, open a business, buy the car under the business.
Well, yeah, that could be, yeah. I mean, like you could write off the cost of the car or the depreciation and so on, but I can't exactly give details about that. Like for business owners, if you buy a car, you have the right under tax laws to write off a portion of the cost of that car as depreciation under the business. So that's another topic for another day. Right. Yeah, so.
Okay, I like sharing some information here. She says, I know a Cameroonian who is based in the UK and super successful in property investments. He now mentors Cameroonians who want to invest in properties and help our community. So reach Luis Tas Nuse for more directions. Luis Tas Nuse is in the comments. So if you want to reach out to Luis Tas, I'm so sorry.
I know the great thing about coming together as a people, as a community. The Indians here have beaten us to the game and the thing.
Please, let's talk about that. Yeah.
Yeah. So, okay, I live in a community, I live in a neighborhood which is overwhelmingly Chinese.
Mm-hmm.
How do they do it? They support each other. They pull, when they have people like the Indians, when they have their brothers come into the country for the first time, they don't rent. They could live in the same house, in a small house, 30 people could live in the same house. So what do? They pool their money. Mm-hmm. You live there, you save a lot of money because going out there to rent, you're giving money to someone else. You're living together, you're saving your money. When you're leaving that house, you're buying yours. You're not going to rent. Mm-hmm. So that's how, and they buy in blocks. So they usually buy in specific neighborhoods. So as a result, you come to certain neighborhoods, you find overwhelmingly East Indian, overwhelmingly Chinese. But the advantage with that is that they're able to use political power when it comes to the voting process, because when they vote a certain way, because we are split up in ridings, mm-hmm. You know, they can all then easily decide to say, okay, we want this person in office. Yeah. And we can pool our votes because we belong to a certain riding and we can influence. So I was going to come to the part about financial power, my people. Yes, financial power. If you want to be respected, it is money. Yes. All these people we see in office, they don't get into office by mistake. Someone puts money to sponsor a political campaign. But unfortunately, us as a people, we have missed out on that because we shy away from politics. We think that politics is bad. Mm-hmm. We have the bad side of politics, but politics is also good. If we're going to influence the outcome of our future, our kids' futures, we have to be at the decision-making table. And we have to be able to pool our resources, generate a financial power to sponsor a candidate. And elections. Yeah.
I'm learning a lot. I just wanted to talk about. Corinne says community is so important. I like this point. We should learn from Indians and stop competing with each other.
Yeah. And the day we are able to cooperate and be one, then we will defeat the system. Because we are missing out on a lot. What they call lobbying is what we know in Africa as corruption.
As well?
Lobbying. In Cameroon, we call it corruption, but it is called lobbying. Okay. It is that same thing. Mm-hmm. He who dictates the piper, he who pays the piper dictates the
true.
Yeah. So I've seen a lot of things. I worked in the public service. I've seen the way things happen, the things that I cannot say, but people influence the system with money. There are ways they do it.
Yeah. With you, he says you either influence politics or it influences you without your consent.
Yeah. So money, the reason why we invest is not just for us. Like if it all depended on me, I'll be back in Cameroon. I mean, I don't think I'll die in Cameroon if I went back to Cameroon, so they'll be able to make it. Mm-hmm. But you bring your kids here and you want them to have a future. And with everything that we see going on in the world now, with the protests in the US, racism, it's because I think we haven't really earned that we need to rally to make our voices heard through the financial power we can generate.
Yeah.
And we will be respected. When the US talks about G7 countries, they don't invite any kind of person. You should be worth your weight in gold to sit at that table. You should be able to prove that you deserve to be there. And it is all about, it's all about money. Of course. It's all about money. We have to talk money. We have to find ways of making that money. We've seen cases in the US, Ivy League schools, we are told that it is competitive. You have to write an exam, you have to be the best. But we saw that scandal. They're paying to get in there.
Hollywood actors, actresses who pay to get their children in there to bypass all that. Yeah.
And when you go there and say, oh, your kids didn't have the grades. No, it's not about grades. It's money. It is money. It's what is getting in there. So I've always wanted to talk about money, but money is always that subject that's very sticky. Like, people don't always want money because I know we've all made mistakes. We've come to the West. We might not be doing well. But I do believe that with the right mindset, when you start to educate yourself about money, you start to master it and you start to understand and get the power.
And I think that's why and says the wise man said, if you're not at the table, you're on the menu.
Exactly.
Oh my God. It's so true. It's really true.
Yeah, it is. Like, why am I going to call you to the table if you have nothing to contribute? Like, and when you come to the table and you're not appreciated, you have to leave. Because if I'm bringing something to the table and you guys don't value, that's how politics works. I'm going to pull out my support. And you guys are going to do what I want you guys to do because I am bringing the money.
Yeah.
So I do appreciate us talking. I wish we could do it more often. And I wish we could have a day when, even if not all of us, but women could pool their resources. There's no telling what we can do. It's really amazing.
And I think that's the beauty of a platform like this, isn't it? Where we come to talk about, where we come to really create awareness, because there's a lot of things that you have said here that literally blown my mind, because I didn't think about it like that. And especially lobbying and corruption in Cameroon. Here it's lobbying, in Cameroon it's corruption.
It's the same thing. They make it look dirty in Cameroon because, well, in Cameroon it's done very openly. There's a lot of nepotism. But you won't see it on the front page news. It's done in a very subtle manner. You have to be in it to see it. But it comes down to money.
Okay.
It comes down to money.
Holly is saying something. She says, I don't believe in money without ethics. Lobbying for causes that are ethically and morally wrong is detrimental to moral standards.
Well, that's a good comment, but you have to be more specific. When you talk about morally wrong, can you give us an example of what you consider morally wrong? Because that's a very subjective word. And believe me, what I've come to learn from our Western counterparts is that they have a way with words. They will label things depending on what they want the outcome to be. So you have to be very careful. You shouldn't be looking at the words. You should be looking at what they are trying to push through. Today, what they can label morally wrong will be correct tomorrow.
Yeah.
We saw this with our freedom. Mandela was labeled a terrorist, but he was acclaimed a hero. How many years later? It's all about the outcome and what they want to achieve. So they play with words. And they make us think that certain things are wrong at a certain time, or it's wrong when it comes to us, but they change the context when it comes to them.
I'm going to ask this question. We just take it away because we're talking community, and I'm seeing a lot of people in the comments talking about the benefits of community. But we know for sure within the Cameroonian community that to bring us together for one goal is one of the hardest things that you can ever. It's harder than even pulling teeth. So how do you guys think that, I'm asking the guests, the audience, and you, Judith, how can we change this mindset in Cameroon and break that whatever that barrier is that stops us from coming together? Because there are different communities that do amazing, like the Bamileke, for example. I mean, from time immemorial, that's who they are as a people. You know, they flock together, they work together, they build together. But for the rest of us, how can we change our mentality and stop and actually copy from the Bamileke, because we have that example in Cameroon?
I think that the main thing with Cameroon is until we can all see ourselves as Cameroonians, not as Bamileke, not as Bamenda, if we can let those barriers there, I think that has been and will continue to be the greatest obstacle to us growing as a people. If we can start looking at each other as a fellow Cameroonian, I don't care what part of Cameroon you're from. I don't care what language you're from. And this issue has been exacerbated in the West because we come here and we divide ourselves up again into these little groups, which is okay. But then the umbrella association, the parent association, which is supposed to bring us together, is neglected for all political reasons I don't want to go into. So until we can heal as a people, until we can heal as a people and come together as one people, we're always going to have issues. We know what the correct political climate has been. I don't want to go there and open another can of worms, but
yeah,
let's look at each other as this person is a Cameroonian, he's doing something good. Not to support them, it doesn't matter who they are.
Yeah.
It's also sad because even though we still divide ourselves, say for example, divide ourselves into the Bangwa people.
Mm-hmm.
Even within the Bangwa community, we continue to divide ourselves
Mm-hmm.
into regional groups. I'm from the War, I'm from the Bang. So the division is so deep.
Mm-hmm.
We stop seeing each other as one. We see each other as different people.
Mm-hmm.
And if we could stop that, you will not
be stopping us.
It will be unstoppable. And to be honest, the West knows that is the biggest weapon they have against us. They don't need to do anything. We are already so divided.
Anyway, let's not get out of
Let's not get into that. But that is
comments.
If we forget whatever village you came from, let's forget that. Let's do things together.
Let's do things together as Cameroonians. Let's try and forget where we came from and just find a way. And I know what's happening in Cameroon and I understand that, but I think that we should also understand that for even that part of Cameroon to grow, we need to stop the division within us or among us and come together as, if we want to call ourselves Ambazonians or want to call ourselves Cameroonians, but we need to find a way to come together. I don't know when that's happening, maybe in my children or my grandchildren's lifetime, but for now, let's just think about it and talk about it. But I want to bring you back to Collie's point because Collie, you were saying morally wrong is subjective, and Collie came back with something. She said, so Uomo Universalis said there is corruption, which is bribery, and there's corruption, which is embezzlement. The latter is cancer stage 4.
Yeah.
No, lobbying and corruption are different in both continents. And so I think she said that and almost said that, and then she comes with an example and she says the example of lobbying to clean images of dictators or fraudsters. This is blood money and wrong. So that's what she means by that was what her point meant.
What she's talking about the dictators. When I'm talking, the context of lobbying in this case is about when a government changes, like when we get a new president. As soon as he is sworn in, or as soon as they know, as soon as it is evident that a certain person is going to win the elections, they descend on him. Mm-hmm. They start to lobby. What is lobbying? These are my interests. For example, you have the lobbies, farmers' lobbies. They want someone in office who's going to enact laws that's going to favor them. Mm-hmm. They come together, they send a representative maybe to Ottawa or to Washington or to London to meet with the prime minister. Mm-hmm. Prior to that, prior to you even being elected, they're putting money in your campaign. Mm-hmm. And you know exactly who's sponsoring your campaign. And that money is not for free. You know what they want. That's lobbying.
Okay, so that's
during your election, you know that you need to enact a law to favor a specific group. That's the context of lobbying.
And this is that financial power we're talking about. So our conversation at this point is long-term financial freedom and power.
And power.
Yeah.
You know, I'll give you a good example. We were lucky enough this year in Alberta to have a Nigerian elected to the House of Commons and who is now a minister. When we heard that he was running, we didn't we didn't have to be told to throw a support behind him. You know, we threw a support. It didn't matter he was Nigerian, but we saw a fellow African. At this point, he might not be able to influence the law. That's between you and I, but we have a voice at the table, and that is how it starts. But for him to get there, someone put money in his campaign to get there. So when we have a situation where we can pool resources to sponsor one of us to run for office, we shouldn't shy from doing it. That is the only way we can effectively influence the laws to listen to us and to listen to our interests.
Because the truth is, I'm gonna literally die and be buried here. This is our home. This is our children's home. So this is our future. England, Canada, wherever you are. And I think what you're also saying is we should start thinking of where we are as home, so that
As long as I mean, like, even if you got your remains get repatriated back, your kids are still gonna have to
Your
live here.
remains, yeah.
Kids are gonna live here, and they're gonna want to work here. They're gonna want to be accepted into society here. So what you're saying is true. We sometimes live with the perception that, oh, after I'm going back to the homeschooling, I'm going back to the homeschooling birth. You're not going to take your children. You want your children to be able to succeed where you failed. You want them to excel in a system where you don't want them to live in a system where there's systemic racism. But you need to work and you need to fight to influence the system so it can change. So that's just my take on stuff like that. And it's very much related to financial power.
Yeah, so for those who are joining us, quite a few people are joining us late. We're almost at the end of the conversation. We're on the woman's experience, and we're talking money with financial professional Jill Billiker, joining us from Calgary. Joining us from Edmonton, Alberta.
It's okay. I know it's fine. I understand it.
Joining us from Edmonton, Alberta, and we've been talking about the different ways. So we started off with our mindset towards money, and we've gone on to talk about the different how we can change this mindset, and then we've talked about the little steps that we can take to create financial freedom as we slowly ease out of the COVID-19 pandemic and lockdown. And we're talking about now the benefits of building wealth, and we're talking about financial power. So this is, we are joining our conversation when we're talking about financial power. And I just want to move to this. Somebody said, start teaching your kids. Our generation is just not tailored for community building.
And that's one point we actually missed about talking to kids, right?
So that was the end, remember?
Yeah.
That's our conversation. Yes, questioning. So one way the question I was going to ask you, which we talked about before the show, was how can we teach our children to manage money, or how can we teach our children a different attitude towards money?
I'll take my own personal experience on what I do, and I think it might be working.
We learn via experiences on this show.
Yeah, by experience. I very early on I started to teach my kids about considering money to be sacrosanct. I was disappointed to see a couple of people in my community. When a kid as early as 10 years old is spoiled, is given expensive gadgets. You buy an iPhone, the latest iPhone for a 10-year-old. Oh, I'm in no position to judge, but my take is this. If you don't teach kids that they need to work to earn something, and you give it to them freely, especially expensive stuff, they're going to take it for granted. So what I always teach my kids is the importance of budgeting. You shouldn't be spending more than you have. You can only spend money that you have. Sometimes if they're going on a field trip and they need some money, I might give them $10. And I always remind them, if I give you $10, doesn't mean you have to spend all that $10. You can come back with $3. Don't go spending. Think about the fact that tomorrow you might need more money. Spend $5 and save a $5 for 2 weeks for another field trip. So I teach them the importance of always spending within their limits and for having a budget for everything. I've always tried to teach them about investment, like business. How does business work? They always ask me that question. When I say I want to do a business, they're like, why are you doing a business? I'm like, to make money. How do you make money out of business? I break it down. For example, if you were making like a chin-chin or a snack to sell, and I'll explain to them, if I needed $100 to invest, like to buy the flour, the sugar, and I could sell the end product of that chin-chin for $150. I've recovered my $100 that I put in initially, and I have also $50. So the $50 is what I have made. That is how I explain investment to them. And I always explain to them what I'm doing. For example, if I'm going to invest in real estate, I explain to them, I'm thinking of buying this house. I want to rent it so I can make money. And then, so I don't know, they might not understand everything you're saying, but they get a pretty good sense growing up that you're into something to make your money grow. So as early as possible, talk to them about money and the importance. And don't spoil them on it's not because you have the money that you should spoil your kids. Give them what they need. Education, give them a good education. Give them the resources to succeed. But do I need to give my kid the latest iPhone? No, they don't need it. I give them a phone that is best to check for their needs. And if I ever have to upgrade you, You have to earn it. Tell me that to earn that. So it's not always going to be a free lunch. And you have to earn, you have to work your way in life. Nothing is ever going to be handed to you for free. No one owes you anything. The entitlement mentality is out. You got to put in the work. You have to work hard. The world is not going to be nice and kind to you. It's going to be tough. Yeah. So that's the approach.
No, and also for our kids, I mean, we're very similar. Our kids are not spoiled at all. Like they don't have what they call that PlayStations. I don't give them those things because they deserve it. No, I've told them you are gonna have to earn it. Yeah, first of all, they want a particular some PS4 thing. I have my two older kids are boys. They want it, and we're making them raise that money to buy it between the two of them. So we've told them be creative with how you raise that money, but raise that money, and then we will buy it. We're not going to give it from our pockets, no. So we train them that way as well. I agree with you. They don't have to have it because we can afford it. They need to understand the value of working for money.
Earn something.
But another
It took me a while, just to say, it took me a while to get, because I understand as a parent coming from Africa, you want to give your kids privileges. So I remember my daughter, my 12-year-old, coming to me some point in time ago and saying, I want to do a lemonade stand in front of the house. I'm like, you want to expose me to the whole community that I'm so poor that I cannot give you money? And I thought about it. I'm like, this is wrong. I should be encouraging this.
Yeah.
This is a kid who already has a sense of wanting to make her own money.
Yes.
So at the point, she was going to do it with her classmate. So I'm like, okay, yeah, it's a good idea. Gave them what they needed. I came home one afternoon. There we go. There's a lemonade stand in front of my driveway, and people were walking up. Guess what? On that day, the weather wasn't so good, so they didn't have a lot of people coming through my street because they used to walk their dogs. She was so smart. She got her friends. They carried their lemonade, and they started knocking on doors. Those people got $100 that day. I was shocked. And from then on, I understood that you have to let them, when they start to want to do these things, let them go. Let them go to court.
And there's a book that I really credit for opening my children's mind. My husband made the children read our older son read that book, our oldest son. And it's Rich Dad, Poor Dad by Robert Kiyosaki. I'm sure.
Yeah, I've read that book too.
Yes. And what he's done is since our son turned 10, he makes sure he reads it at least every year, just to put him in that mindset. And I think that's the book has been really good because it's making him think like a businessman. First of all, he has my Bangwa gene, so he doesn't spend money like that at all.
No, he shouldn't be spending money like that.
With financial literacy, I'm sure he's going to be all right.
Yeah, I mean, it's as long as you start that, when they start to get that mindset, that you won't have issues with your children. But with children, it's just about teaching them the right thing. And if you start and you get going early on in life, you are set for life. And you don't have to do much. Once the foundation is good, you're going to see, as my kids are getting into the teenage years, there's very little I have to do. It's like the African mother one of shouting sometimes just to make yourself feel like you're still in control. But the rest of it is just maintenance. Like, I'm just sitting there and watching them. Yeah. So it's a great discussion to have. Yeah.
This has been Brigitte says this has opened a bank account for them and let them manage the money in it. Put money for a month, and if the money is finished, then they have to wait, if possible. Yeah, that's another good idea.
But now what I do with them is I get them a piggy bank. If you have change, put it in your piggy bank. It's a good thing to have a bank account, but usually I find with bank accounts, they don't really, once they can't appreciate the concept of physical cash, it's hard for them to imagine.
I see, yeah.
Numbers. Let them be able to actually get a feel of what money is.
Yeah.
They found that it was easier to spend money on a card than when you have cash. I know people who actually carry cash because they have a real sense. You get a real feel. When you spend your money, you know that's your money going. But with a card, it's like, oh, well, I just swiped it,
Yeah, that's so true. This has been a really informative conversation and very eye-opening in many aspects. It starts with each and every one of us. We cannot keep saying it needs to stop and we're not doing anything about it. I think Gillian is talking here about the community building that we talked about.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, a lot of people are like me. Our diversity is a curse. That's Collie. And Corinne says patronize Cameroonian businesses first.
Yes, yes,
Please, yeah. No,
yeah.
I agree. Let's start from there. If you know that
Mhm.
a Cameroonian business is somewhere, try and patronize it. But then again, I'll say this to the entrepreneurs: if you are into business, please just learn some basic customer service. It is
Exactly.
so important, because if I'm spending my hard-earned money on your business in the name of supporting African business or Cameroonian business, I need to feel appreciated, because a lot of a lot of us,
Take it
no,
for granted.
us take it for granted. A lot of
No,
us take it for
it's
granted.
a longevity issue. Like customer service is not one of the bad ones. Look at our government. Look at the services. Customer
Yeah,
service
but we're here now.
is
We have learned. We've
yeah.
learned better. We know better. We can do better.
I come personally. I go on Facebook and I usually see a lot of great African design dresses. I want to buy them, but the distribution channels are not there. How? I mean, like maybe the entrepreneurs can start looking into how do we reach to them? Because the diaspora is your. I think at this point has more
Yeah.
of the purchasing power. You know, I see the stuff is so beautiful. Instead of me going to the store, Walmart, getting that stuff, why can't I get it from you? But the distribution channels are not there. And then secondly, the customers are just, I don't know, think about the fact that I could have spent $10 elsewhere, but
Yeah.
I'm coming to you. I'm helping you grow. It doesn't mean that I can only buy for you. There are 100 other people
Yeah.
or other stores I've left. Like I turned my back on them to come to you. You should be able to appreciate that business. And your attitude and your customer service is what is going to compel me to recommend you and to refer you
Yeah. True.
to other people. And there's a huge untapped market here. I think generally Canada is kind of overlooked when it comes to a lot of things. And sometimes I feel bad because there's a lot of potential. There's an untapped market here. People will buy just with the right attitude. Reach out, create those distribution channels, market yourself,
Thank
and
you.
have the right attitude.
We'll come for you guys. Tanya said something that I want to read. She says, children upbringing should be a package. It has to be well-rounded. I've seen children who are extremely spoiled from birth, but grow up to be disciplined and successful. So it really depends on the kid, actually.
Well, I mean, like spoiled to mean a lot of things. If you're spoiling your kid, giving them a lot of money, and still being able to teach them that they shouldn't adopt a sense of entitlement, then I think you might get to that point. But I have found in my experience that when kids get, I mean, like when kids get things easily, they get to think that someone owes them that sense of entitlement. Like they get that sense of entitlement, and when they grow up, when they can't get it, it's a problem. Well, that's my personal opinion, but it's really right.
Me too. I like what Stella says. She says parents should train their children with the formula of charity begins at home, meaning provide them with a little box as bank and a notebook to be able to take note of their accounting.
Yeah.
Ah, I like that.
Yeah.
Actually, I like that. So and they have their piggy bank, and every time they spend, they learn basic accounting from the. I like that, Stella. That's a very good idea. I mean, Judith, I'm sure we could go on and on and on. We've been talking for an hour and 20 minutes now, and I just want to say, my goodness, it's been so informative, and I thank you all for your participation. The numbers have stayed up, so that means that we all really came to learn something. We came tonight, for those who joined us a bit late, a couple of people have just joined us. We came tonight to talk about money. We've tried our very best to talk about all the aspects of it. So we've started from what we can do. We started from what we can do as with the pandemic. We've learned about the little steps we can take to make our money work for us. We've learned about investments. We've learned about the benefits of truly building our own and supporting our community, and the little tips on the children, how to raise the children. There are books, resources that I'm going to add to the resource page on the resource posts on the Goretti Experience page. So after this, whatever books and resources that Judith shares with me, I'm going to put it on that post. So if you click on that, read in the comments, you're going to find all the information, the resources you need for today. I just really want to thank you, Judith. Honestly, it's been a really great conversation. And again, for those of us in the UK, I know Rencam. I know of Rencam. I know for sure that Rencam, again, I gave you guys their website, rencam.co.uk. I know that they are a credit union, and it's a savings and investment scheme where we pool our savings together, and then it's like kind of like in Janky. But I'm not going to speak for them. Just go on their website, www.rencam.co.uk. Check out what they do, and let's learn. Let's work with our community, because the positive of building power of financial power is we can actually influence legislation. We can influence the outcome of our lives within the wider community of where we are, be it UK, US, Europe, or wherever. So I really have learned so much today, Judith, and my goodness, this was the baby of our class, and see how it is.
To be honest, when you ask me,
so your baby are not blessed. Any last words though? Any last words, Judith?
I just wanted to say that it's amazing what you're trying, or what you're doing here. Like, trying to get women to come together. And when you asked me to come on the show, I was like, I almost chickened. I was like, I am not a public person. I've never been live on Facebook. I am a very shy and reserved person. Yeah. And unfortunately, the kind of work that I do, accounting, that even makes it worse. Like, all we know is spreadsheets and numbers, and that's our world. We're not a very social group of people. So I almost chickened. I'm like, I can't do this. And when we started to talk about this, I started to have nerves. I wanted to tell you at some point, are you sure I can do this? But I'm very happy, because I've always wanted to have this conversation about money. I've seen in my line of work, I've seen so many things, and I always regret the fact that we didn't have that resource growing up, learning about money and how money works. I'm happy if this has been informative for anyone who's been able to take away something positive. And I'm open for questions or whatever. And like you said, don't forget, Goretti, your YouTube. You can always find this on YouTube. So it's been an honor for me. Like, it's a privilege. I'm happy that you had me on the show to talk about it. Money is what makes the world go round. No one should fool us. It is money that makes the world tick. It doesn't mean that you have to forgo ethics or whatever for money, but to be respected and listened to, you need that money.
You do. You do.
Yeah, and regardless of what you do in life,
you need money.
Physician, you are a pharmacist,
filmmaker, you need money. You do.
And regardless of the plans that you make in life, if there's no money, nothing can move. So that's why sometimes we're hated. As accountants are not very liked. Mm-hmm. Because people make grand plans, and then remember at the last minute they have to talk to an accountant, and the accountant tells you, no, it's not possible because there's no money, because they feel that. Sometimes they feel like the accountant is just trying to be mean. But no, it's the whole thing comes down to the dollar, or the franc CFA, or whatever you want to call it, the euro.
Thank you, Judy.
Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure. Thanks.
All right, then. I'll keep you backstage, Judy, so just while I close. Thank you guys so much. I mean, I'm not going to add. Thank you, Lovely. Thank you, everyone that found this really informative. I did too. Did you guys just see? I wasn't talking. I was just taking it all in. So I go and impart it in my everyday life. So thank you so much for this conversation. Thank you for all of you who contributed. And because I was, you can see the comments. You go back and read the comments. It was just going back really fast. And so I didn't get a chance to read everyone's comments. But if you want to come back to it, it's going to be there. And after every show, I mean, this is episode 15, but this is the first time I'm mentioning it. After every show, I upload it on the YouTube channel, which is the Goretti Experience channel. So for those of you who find any information here important to whatever aspect of your life, if you want to catch it and the person you want to share it with is not on Facebook, you can go on the Goretti Experience on YouTube and share the YouTube version to your loved ones or family, whatever. So thank you so much. Thank you so much. It was a great evening. It was a great conversation. It was very educative, very informative, great insights that Judith shared with us. And I really appreciate you. I'll see you guys on Friday where we will have Mr. Alene Menget on our show. So please, at 8 p.m. Friday, do join us. Let's have another conversation. Thank you so much and have a wonderful evening. Bye-bye.